We're going to factor polynomials by greatest common factor in this lesson. Before we start, we need to, we're gonna solve these three questions. So the first one, this square means you multiply anything inside the parenthesis, everything inside the parenthesis. You're gonna multiply that twice. So now I'm gonna multiply numbers first. You see 6 and 6 here. So 6 times 6, 36. And x times x. So you multiply x twice, which means x twice. If you just put x, it's not going to tell you. It's not going to say, oh, I multiply x twice. If you just put x, that means you multiply x once times, which is not true in this question. So be careful. So you have to put 2. This is going to be the right answer. And I'm going to multiply 2y 1/2. I'm going to multiply these twice. 2y 1/2 power. So now I'm going to multiply these two first, which is 4. And I'm going to multiply these to combine y. And when you multiply 1/2 power, 1/2 power. So you're going to add these two numbers. So 1/2 plus and 1/2. So it's going to be 4y to the first power. And negative 3m times by negative 3m. So you multiply negative 3 twice, which is 9, and m squared. All right, we're going to find the greatest common factor in each monomials in polynomial. So we need to review what GCF means. GCF, everyone, I hope everyone remember this. The greatest common factor, this is GCF, is the greatest factor that divides two numbers. So to find this, we need to find all the factors in each number. So 33, we have 1, 3, 11, and 33. And 22, what are the factors? 1, 2, 11, and 22. That's it. So what is the greatest factor that divides two numbers? What is the greatest common factor in these factors, among these factors? We have 11, 11, 1, and 1, but 11 is the greatest. So the greatest factor is GCF is 11 for number 1. But if you don't go through writing out all the factors, if you don't like it, I'll introduce cake method. So if you use cake method, you may put two numbers next to each other, and it's like opposite way of division sign. So division, when you divide, you put this little box, but I'm going to just put it like upside down. So you need to find the common factor between these two, any common factor. So any common factor but 1, because 1, if you do 1, it's still you will get the same numbers. So what is a common factor between these two? So you may find 2 is not working, 3 is not working, 4, 2, no, 3, no. This is what I do. Like I always start from the smaller number until I find the common factor. So if you keep going, you may see, 11 is divide these two numbers. So it's going to be 3. It's going to be 3 and 2. So there's no common factor from here. Then the number on the left side is going to be the GCF. GCF. So now I'm going to apply this knowledge for number 2. So 30 and 20. What is the smallest factor? Let's find the smallest factor. So 1, we don't talk about 1. So what about 2? So 2 is also divide those two numbers. So I'm going to put 2, and you're going to divide 30 by 2, which is 15, which is 10. So now we still have common factor here, right? So they can be simplified by what? By 5. So I'm going to put 5 and 15 divided by 5, 3. 10 divided by 5, 2. So no more common factors. So it's prime, right? So it cannot be simplified more. So now you have 2 and 5. So now you're going to multiply it, and it's going to be GCF. So GCF in this question is going to be 10. So this is called cake method. So if you want to use it, I prefer using this way than better than like writing out all the factors and find the greatest one. So let's practice more. All right, we're going to match each pair of monomials with a GCF here. So let's look at number 5. So we have 14n squared and 35n to the 4th power. So we have 14n squared and 35n to the 4th power. So let's find the common factor between these two. So what is a common factor between 14 and 35? 14, 35. Both are multiples of 7. So 7 times 5 is 35. So we know that 7 is going to be the greatest common factor. Like part of the greatest common factor. We already found 7, right? So it's going to be B. We didn't learn about to find the GCF of the letter part, the variable part, but we still can find the answer, right? What about 21 and 18? 21 and 18. Oh, before we move on, so let's just talk about how you find the greatest common factor between these two on the letter part. So you can divide both by n, right? So if you have like n squared, only n to the 4th, then you divide n. So if you divide it by n, it's going to be n and n to the 3rd power. We still have common factor, so you do one more time, n, 1, and if you divide n to the 3rd divided by n, it's n to the 2nd power. So now we only have n and n. So if you multiply them, it's going to be n squared. So you have n squared as a GCF. What about 21 and 18? 21, 18. 2 is not a common factor. 3, I think. 3 is a common factor. So 3 times 7, 3 times 6. And we get to the phase that we don't have any common factor from here. So 3 is going to be the greatest common factor. 3 times by what? So now look at the letter part. So you divide it by what? N. So it's going to be n squared, and it's going to be n. And if you divide, you can divide it by one more time, n, and n divided by n, 1. So the greatest common factor is going to be n squared. So 3n squared. So it's going to be C. And 7n squared and 9, no common factor between 7 and 9. Those are prime. And n to the 2nd power. N to the 2nd power. And 1, no. So the greatest common factor for 7 is 1. All right, so we're going to multiply monomial and trinomial. So we're going to use greatest common distributive property. So use distributive property. So I'm going to do this and this and this. Just be careful when you distribute this negative to these elements in the parentheses. Just keep the negative sign. 9x to the 4th. And what is negative times by negative? It's going to be positive x cubed 2x cubed. And the last, I'm going to multiply these, which is plus negative x cubed times by 7. So let me rewrite this. So it's negative 9x to the 7th power, and we have 2, so you put it in front, x to the 3rd, x to the 3rd, so x to the 6th power, and minus, because we have minus here, and 7, x to the 3rd power. So I just simplify it, so the answer is D.